The Cost of Absence. My name is Samuel Collins. I'm 47 years old now, but this story begins when I was 29, working construction in Denver, Colorado. Back then, I thought I had everything figured out. A steady job with Morrison Construction, a modest 2-story house in Thornton with a manageable mortgage, and a family that seemed solid as the foundations I helped pour every day. Angela Brooks Collins, my wife of 6 years, and our 3 kids, Michael, 5, Sarah, 3, and little Emma, barely 18 months old. I was the kind of man who believed in showing love through actions, not words. 50-hour work weeks, overtime when available, making sure the bills were paid and the kids had everything they needed. My construction salary was $34,000 a year. Not great, but steady. Angela worked part-time at a dental office downtown, handling appointments and insurance paperwork, bringing in another $18,000 annually. Nothing glamorous, but together, it covered our $1,200 monthly mortgage, car payments, and the basics, with a little left over for future dance classes for Sarah, T-ball registration for Michael, and quality daycare for Emma. Looking back, I realize I was living in a carefully constructed illusion. Angela had been smiling at breakfast just 3 days before it happened. She'd made pancakes for the kids, kissed my cheek as I headed out the door with my lunch cooler and hard hat. "Have a good day, Sam," she'd said, like she meant it. It was a Tuesday in March 2007. I remember because we'd just gotten our tax refund. It's $800 that we'd planned to use for a family vacation to Rocky Mountain National Park that summer. I came home at 6:30 p.m. expecting the usual chaos of dinner prep, getting Michael ready for his t-ball practice later that week, and Emma's bedtime routine. Instead, I found silence. The house felt wrong immediately. Too quiet, too clean. Michael and Sarah were at my mother's house. I'd find out later that Angela had dropped them off that morning with some excuse about running errands. Emma was at daycare, and I'd need to pick her up by 7 p.m. or face late fees. I called out for Angela. No answer. Her 2004 Honda Accord wasn't in the driveway, but that wasn't unusual. She often ran errands after work. But something felt off. The closet in our bedroom was half empty. Her jewelry box sat open, most of the pieces gone. Our joint checking account had been accessed that morning. I discovered later she'd withdrawn $1,500, leaving just enough to avoid overdraft fees, but taking most of our tax refund money. On the kitchen counter, folded neatly next to the coffee maker, was a piece of notebook paper with her handwriting. I deserve to be happy. Don't look for me. That was it. No explanation, no goodbye to the kids, no forwarding address. Just 10 words that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, reading those words over and over, waiting for them to make sense. They never did. The reality hit me in waves. First, the immediate panic. Emma was still at daycare. Michael had t-ball practice that week. Sarah needed dinner and her bedtime story. Then the deeper realization. This wasn't a fight or a temporary separation. Angela had planned this. She'd packed methodically, taken money, arranged childcare, and left. She'd made a choice, and that choice didn't include her children. I picked up Emma from Little Sprouts daycare that night, her chubby arms reaching for me as always. At 18 months, she was just learning to walk steadily and could say Mama and Dada clearly. When she looked around the daycare room, she said, "Mama?" With that questioning tone toddlers use. I told her Mama went bye-bye using simple words she could understand. It bought me time to figure out what to say to the older kids. My mother, Carol Collins, lived 20 minutes away in Westminster. She'd raised 5 kids, mostly on her own. After my father died when I was 12, if anyone could help me navigate this disaster, it was her. I called her from the daycare parking lot. "Sam, what's wrong?" She knew immediately something was off. Mothers have that radar. "Angela's gone, Mom. She left. Just gone." There was silence. Then, "I'll put coffee on." "Bring the kids here tonight." That's my mother, no drama. No questions, just solutions. The next few days blurred together. I had to call in sick to work, something I'd never done unless I was actually dying. Morrison Construction was understanding, but I knew I couldn't make a habit of it. Construction jobs don't come with unlimited personal time. I had a mortgage, car payments, and 3 kids to support on my single income. I found out about the affair through Angela's sister, Lisa. She called on Thursday night, guilt eating her alive. "Sam, I'm so sorry. I thought you knew. She's been seeing this guy from her work for months. Rick, something. They're in Phoenix now. Rick Gutierrez." I learned his name from the dental office when I called looking for Angela. Dr. Patterson's receptionist let it slip that both Angela and Rick had quit the same day, Tuesday, the day she left. No 2-week notice, no explanation. They'd cleaned out their desks and walked out together. The betrayal cut deep, but I didn't have time to wallow. Michael asked every morning when Mommy was coming home. Sarah at 3 didn't understand but sensed something was wrong and became clingy. Emma kept saying Mama and looking around hopefully. I had 3 confused, hurting children depending on me to hold everything together. I made a decision that night, sitting at my kitchen table with a beer and a stack of bills. I wouldn't chase her. I wouldn't beg her to come back. I wouldn't even badmouth her to the kids. Instead, I would build something better. I would become the parent she never was, and my children would grow up knowing they were loved unconditionally. The logistics were brutal. Daycare costs for Emma jumped from part-time to full-time, and extra $520 per month that stretched our budget to the breaking point. I had to switch to first shift at Morrison, which meant less overtime pay, but allowed me to pick up the kids by 6 p.m. My mother helped when she could. But she still worked part-time at Walmart and had her own bills to manage. Money was tight. I canceled cable, switched to a basic cell phone plan, and started buying generic groceries. The kids noticed some changes, of course. "Why don't we have the good cereal anymore?" Michael asked one morning. I told him we were trying new things, being adventurous. He bought it because 5-year-olds want to believe their parents have everything under control. 3 months after Angela left, I hired a private investigator not to bring her back, but to make sure she couldn't surprise me with custody demands later. Jake Morrison, the pie, charged me $300 up front and found them in 2 weeks. Angela and Rick were living in a studio apartment in Tempe, Arizona. Rick had found work at another dental office, making about $32,000 annually. Angela was waitressing at Buffalo Wild Wings, probably making $20,000, $25,000 with tips. "They're struggling financially," Jake reported. "Multiple late rent notices. Both their cars are behind on payments. The studio apartment rent is $650 a month, which is stretching them thin on their combined income. Doesn't look like they planned this very well." I filed for legal separation and full custody in Jefferson County Family Court. Angela didn't contest it. She didn't even respond to the court papers served at her Tempe address. Her silence spoke louder than any defense attorney could have. By Christmas 2007, we'd found our rhythm. The kids still asked about their mother, but less frequently. I decorated the tree alone after they went to bed, wrapped presents I'd bought with overtime money from weekend jobs, and made Christmas morning as magical as I could manage on our tight budget. Michael got a $20 Wilson glove from Big 5 Sporting Goods. Sarah got coloring books and a big box of crayons. Emma got a stuffed elephant from Walmart that she immediately adopted as her constant companion. "This is the best Christmas ever," Sarah announced, hugging her new coloring books. I almost cried right there, not because it was true, it wasn't, not really. Our Christmas budget was $120 total compared to the $350 we'd spent the previous year. But because she believed it, despite everything Angela had taken from them, she hadn't taken their ability to find joy in small things. That's when I realized something important. My revenge wouldn't be dramatic or public. It wouldn't involve destroying Angela's new life or exposing her to friends and family. My revenge would be quiet and devastating. I would raise 3 children who would never need her, never miss her, and never forgive her for choosing herself over them. The irony was perfect. Angela had left to find happiness, but she'd abandoned the only thing that could have given her lasting joy. Now that joy belonged entirely to me. By 2010, 3 years after Angela's disappearance, we'd built something solid. I'd been promoted to crew supervisor at Morrison Construction. which came with a $3,500 annual raise and better health insurance. My salary had increased to $37,500. And with careful budgeting and occasional weekend work, we were finally comfortable. The kids were thriving. Michael, now 8, was playing Little League Baseball and getting mostly A's and B's in 2nd grade. Sarah, 6, had discovered she had real artistic talent. Her drawings covered our refrigerator like badges of honor. Emma, 4, was potty trained, speaking in complete sentences, and the star of her preschool class. But the biggest change came in the form of Karen Hayes. I met Karen at Sarah's parent-teacher conference in October 2010. She was there for her daughter, Jessica, who was in Sarah's 1st grade class at Thornton Elementary. Karen was recently divorced, working as a registered nurse at Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital, making about $45,000 a year. She had this way of talking to kids that put them instantly at ease, treating them like real people instead of small adults who needed managing. "Your Sarah is incredibly talented," Karen told me after we'd both finished our conferences. "Jessica talks about her all the time. They're quite the artistic duo in Mrs. Peterson's class." We started talking, and I found myself staying in that elementary school hallway longer than I'd planned. Karen had been through her own divorce battle. Her ex-husband had been having an affair with his business partner and had tried to hide assets during the settlement. She'd fought for 18 months to get what she and Jessica deserved. The thing about betrayal, she told me over coffee at a local diner 3 weeks later, is that it teaches you what really matters. Not the person who left, but the people who stayed. Karen understood the weight of single parenthood, the exhaustion of being everything to your children, the way you second-guess every decision, wondering if you're enough, but she also understood the fierce protectiveness that comes with it. When she looked at my kids, she saw them as individuals with their own personalities and potential, not as baggage or complications. The relationship developed slowly and carefully. Karen never tried to replace Angela or rush into a parental role. She carved out her own space in our lives naturally. She taught Sarah more advanced drawing techniques and helped her frame her best pictures. She helped Michael with his math homework and attended his baseball games. She read bedtime stories to Emma in different character voices that made all of us laugh until our sides hurt. By Christmas 2011, Karen and Jessica had become part of our family traditions. We went to see Christmas lights at the Denver Botanic Gardens together, made cookies, and exchanged modest gifts. By summer 2012, after careful consideration and long talks with all the kids, we'd moved in together. Karen sold her townhouse in Arvada, and we found a larger 4-bedroom rental in Broomfield with good schools and enough space for everyone. The rent was $1,400 per month, more than I'd been paying for my house, but manageable with both our incomes combined. I proposed to Karen on Emma's 7th birthday in March 2013, not because I thought the kids needed a mother figure they'd proven they could thrive without one, but because I'd fallen in love with a woman who made our already good life even better. The engagement ring cost me $800, 2 months of careful saving, but her reaction was worth every penny. "Will you be our real mom now?" Emma asked Karen after she said yes. "Honey, I've been your real mom for a long time," Karen replied, kneeling down to Emma's level. "Now it's just official." The wedding was small and budget-conscious. Family, close friends at my mother's church in Westminster. The total cost was $2,800, which we saved for over 6 months. Michael, now 11, served as my best man, too young to walk Karen down the aisle, but perfect for standing beside me. Sarah, 9, was maid of honor in a dress we found on sale at J.C. Penney. Emma, 7, and Jessica, 8, were flower girls in matching dresses Karen made herself. It was everything Angela's and my wedding hadn't been: genuine, joyful, surrounded by people who truly wanted to be there. Angela had been completely silent for 6 years at this point. No birthday cards, no Christmas gifts, no phone calls, no child support payments. The kids had stopped asking about her entirely. When friends or teachers asked about their family, they talked about Karen as their mother, without hesitation or qualification. In early 2015, I received divorce papers from Arizona. Angela wanted to make our separation official so she could marry Rick. I signed without hesitation and had them notarized the same day. No alimony was requested, probably because she knew she had no grounds after abandoning the marriage. No custody arrangements were discussed because she'd already legally abandoned her parental rights through 8 years of complete absence and non-support. The irony wasn't lost on me. Angela had left to be free and find happiness. And now she needed my signature to move forward with her life. Meanwhile, I'd found more happiness, stability, and genuine partnership than I'd ever had during our marriage. By 2018, 11 years after Angela's abandonment, our reconstructed family was thriving in ways I couldn't have imagined back in 2007. Michael was 16, a junior in high school with a 3.6 GPA and genuine college prospects. He'd grown into a confident, responsible young man who worked part-time at a local grocery store and was being scouted by several colleges for their baseball programs. Sarah, 14, was winning regional art competitions and selling small paintings at local craft fairs for $25, $50 each. Emma, 12, was class president of her 7th grade class and active in student government, showing leadership skills that made teachers predict great things for her future. Karen had legally adopted all 3 kids in 2016. They'd requested it themselves, wanting her last name and the legal recognition of what had already been emotionally true for years. The adoption process cost $3,200 in legal fees. But seeing their faces when the judge made it official was priceless. The judge asked each child individually if they understood what adoption meant. "It means Karen gets to be our mom forever," Emma had said, now 12 and articulate beyond her years. Like officially, forever. And nobody can take that away. That's when I realized my revenge was complete, even though the final act hadn't yet begun. Angela had lost more than a family she'd lost the chance to know the incredible people her children had become. She'd missed first days of school, science fair victories, baseball championships, art show ribbons, first heartbreaks, driving lessons, college prep, and thousands of small daily moments that actually matter in raising children. She'd traded it all for what? According to my periodic Google searches, Rick had left her in 2017 for a younger woman. Angela was working as a cashier at a Walmart in Phoenix. Living alone in a studio apartment with no apparent prospects or relationships. But the most perfect part of my revenge wasn't what Angela had lost. It was what she could never reclaim. My children didn't miss her, didn't need her, and didn't consider her part of their story. She'd made herself completely irrelevant to their lives. And no amount of regret or attempted reconciliation could change that fundamental reality. The doorbell rang on a Saturday morning in April 2025, 18 years after. Angela had walked out of our lives. I was in the kitchen making pancakes for Karen and myself. The kids were all grown now, living their own lives. But Saturday breakfast had remained our treasured tradition, even when they visited. I opened the door and barely recognized the woman standing there. Angela Brooks looked every one of her 45 years and more. Her face was deeply lined with stress and disappointment, her hair thin and completely gray. She wore a wrinkled Walmart uniform, the navy blue vest and khakis that represented the peak of her career achievements. Her car, visible in the driveway, was a dented 2015 Honda Civic that had clearly seen better days. "Hello, Sam," she said, as if 18 years of silence could be bridged with a casual greeting. I didn't invite her in. "Angela, what do you want?" "I want to see my children." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Behind me, I heard Karen's footsteps stop in the hallway. She was listening, ready to support me, but letting me handle this moment that had been building for nearly 2 decades. "Your children." I kept my voice level and controlled. Which children would those be? Angela's carefully rehearsed composure cracked slightly. "Michael, Sarah, and Emma. I know they're grown now, but they're still my kids. I gave birth to them. I have rights." I almost laughed out loud. Rights. After 18 years of absolute nothing, no calls. No cards, no child support, no interest in their lives whatsoever, she wanted to claim rights. "You gave up those rights when you walked out in 2007, I said calmly. "Legally and practically." Karen adopted them years ago. You lost any legal claim when you abandoned them. I was young and confused, Angela said, the excuse sounding practiced and hollow. Rick promised me things would be different in Phoenix. I thought I'd come back eventually when I got my life together. Eventually took 18 years. She looked past me, trying to see into the house where she'd once lived, desperately searching for any sign of the children she'd abandoned. I know I made mistakes, Sam, but I'm their mother. Blood is blood. They need to know I want to be part of their lives now. That's when Michael's voice cut through the morning air with the precision of a blade. No, we really don't. I turned to see him standing behind Karen in the hallway. My oldest son was 23 now, a mechanical engineer with Lockheed Martin, making $68,000 a year, engaged to his college girlfriend Rebecca. He'd driven over to help me repair a leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom, like he did most weekends. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered from years of baseball and good nutrition, confident and successful, everything a father hopes his son becomes. Angela breathed, reaching toward him like she might touch a ghost. You've grown so much. You look just like your father when I met him. I'm nothing like him, Michael said with cold precision. He stayed. He raised us. He worked extra jobs when necessary and never once abandoned his responsibilities because life got difficult. Sarah appeared next. Having heard the commotion from the garage where she'd been unloading art supplies for her studio. At 21, she was preparing for her 4th local art show, her talent having evolved far beyond those early refrigerator drawings into sophisticated paintings that sold for each at local galleries. She took one look at Angela and crossed her arms defensively. Let me guess, Sarah said, her artist side taking in every detail of Angela's appearance. Life didn't work out the way you planned in Arizona, and now you want to play mom to successful adult children you had no part in raising? Angela's eyes filled with tears that looked more desperate than genuine. I never stopped thinking about you, any of you. I just see why I needed to find myself, to figure out who I was outside of being a wife and mother. Find yourself. Sarah's voice carried the sharp edge she'd inherited from years of learning to stand up for herself. We were 3, 5, and 18 months old. We needed you to be our mother, not to go on some selfish journey of self-discovery at our expense. Emma arrived last. Having gotten the urgent text from Michael, at 19, she was completing her sophomore year at CU Denver with a double major in political science and communications. Already planning for law school with the kind of focused determination that reminded everyone of me at that age. She looked at Angela with the same clinical assessment she used when preparing for debate competitions. You look disappointed, Emma observed with unsettling calm. Were you expecting some kind of tearful reunion? Maybe hoping we'd grown up damaged and needy, desperate for maternal approval? Angela wiped her eyes with a trembling hand. I was hoping you'd at least give me a chance to explain. I'm your mother. I carried you for 9 months. I gave birth to you. Karen Hayes is our mother, Emma said with the finality of a judge's gavel. She earned that title by being there for 18 years. You were just the woman who gave birth to us. The cruelty of that statement would have devastated me if it had been directed at someone who deserved compassion. But Angela had forfeited the right to gentle treatment when she'd chosen her own perceived happiness over her children's fundamental need for stability and love. I can make this right, Angela pleaded, looking desperately between the 4 of us, her voice taking on a frantic edge. I have time now. Rick and I, that didn't work out. I'm free to focus on family. I want to be a grandmother to your future children. Too late, Michael said with devastating simplicity. About 17 years and 51 weeks too late. Angela turned back to me, perhaps thinking I might be more sympathetic, or willing to forgive past sins for the sake of some imagined future reconciliation. Sam, surely you understand? People make mistakes. I was in a bad place mentally back then. I've grown since then. I've learned from my mistakes. I studied her face carefully. Seeing the desperation and entitlement warring therein equal measure, she still didn't get it. Even after all these years, she thought this was about forgiveness, about second chances, about healing old wounds and moving forward as some kind of blended family. She couldn't comprehend that there was nothing left to heal, because we'd built something infinitely better in her complete absence. "You're right," I said quietly, my voice carrying 18 years of hard-earned wisdom. "People do make mistakes, but abandoning your children isn't a mistake. It's a choice, and choices have consequences that don't disappear just because you finally regret them. They're adults now," Angela said, grasping at straws with increasing desperation. "They can make their own decisions about having a relationship with me. You can't keep me from them." "We just did," Sarah said with finality. The silence that followed was profound and complete. Angela looked at her biological children, successful, confident, loved, and utterly complete without her hand, perhaps finally understood the magnitude of what she'd given up. These weren't the broken, needy, damaged kids she might have expected to find. They were whole human beings who'd not only survived her abandonment, but had thrived because of her absence. "I see," Angela said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I guess I understand." She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back one final time. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. I really am. Sorry you left, or sorry it didn't work out with Rick?" Emma asked with the precision of a prosecuting attorney. Angela couldn't answer. She had no answer, because we all knew the truth. She was sorry her life hadn't turned out the way she'd imagined. But she wasn't truly sorry for leaving because she still didn't understand what she'd destroyed. She walked to her dented Honda Civic and drove away, probably returning to her studio apartment in Phoenix, to her job at Walmart. To whatever remained of the life she'd chosen over us, we watched until her taillights disappeared around the corner. Then Karen stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me in the kind of embrace that had sustained our family for over a decade. "You okay?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. I nodded. "More than okay, Michael, Sarah." And Emma gathered around us in the kind of family embrace we'd perfected over the years, genuine, warm, chosen rather than obligated. This was our victory, not revenge in any traditional sense, but something far more satisfying. We'd built a family based on choice, commitment, and unconditional love. Angela's absence hadn't broken us. It had made us stronger, more resilient, more appreciative of what we had. That evening, as Karen and I sat on our back deck watching the sunset over the Front Range, she asked if I felt vindicated by Angela's pathetic return. "No," I said honestly. "I feel grateful. Grateful that she left when she did. If she hadn't, I might never have learned what real love actually looks like. The kids might never have known what it means to be truly wanted and valued. They might never have had you as their mother." My revenge wasn't dramatic or cruel in any traditional sense. It was simply this. I had raised 3 incredible human beings who chose me. Chose Karen, chose the family we'd built together through 18 years of daily commitment. Angela could return to her empty apartment in Phoenix, to whatever remained of the life she'd traded us for, but she could never reclaim or undo what she'd thrown away. Some doors once closed by our own choices never open again. Some opportunities once rejected never come back. Angela learned that truth 18 years too late, and that was the most perfect justice any of us could have asked for.